Darryl Frankfort, welcome to the show.
TK!
Happy to have
my God, the world is on fire, TK. What the hell's going on here?
Well, you know how it is. Every
Another
single week there's something
Sunday?
new. I mean, if there weren't things happening in the world, then, you know, we
Nothing to
wouldn't
do.
have anything to talk about.
That's right.
Imagine, this
Nothing to do.
podcast wouldn't exist if
I don't-
everything was just okay,
I don't think we'd ever run out of stuff to talk about, though.
right? But there's things going on out there right now. Like,
There's a lot
we
of
got
stuff
like
going on.
dominoes out there right now that are just like, doom, 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 doom.
They're
What's going to
getting
happen?
bigger and bigger. Well, I mean,
I don't think we know.
we don't know. I mean,
We
we
don't know.
think we know.
Jesus.
I think I have an idea, but I mean, it's generally wrong.
I pretty
But,
much just like to find out about things after they happened. you know?
After they happen is a
Yeah,
good
that's
way of
usually
doing
my
things.
shtick, you know. The
It's a
whole
good
predicting
way of
thing
doing
is really not something that I've been very good at, right?
Is this
What's
guy,
up, guys?
is this
He's
guy,
in the lounge again. He's in the lounge.
Yes, sir.
The man, the myth, the legend,
look
Jordon
at,
Scrinko.
How
Are
are
you
we
in-
doing
are
on
you
this
in the
beautiful
city?
Saturday morning?
are you in this city of ours?
Could be.
Yeah, I'm at the one, which may or may not get built, but
May or
Ooh,
may not get
drama.
built.
Ooh,
Oh my
let's
God.
start it
Yeah,
out right,
actually, I
Darryl.
never even thought about that.
Start it out right.
May not even get finished. Yeah.
Why
Why
is that,
didn't I
Jordan?
think
Tell-
about that?
tell
That's
me.
like target number one.
I hope it does.
You hope it gets built? Why?
It's beautiful. I love the building, man. I love the units. I love those columns. Look at that column right there.
Yeah, it's pretty
Isn't that
cool.
stunning?
Did
Right?
Apple
You got the
bail?
Star Trek
The
fleet.
bench all the way around the
Did
beautiful.
Apple bail on the retail?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah, they
believe they're trying to.
Trying to
I don't
bail.
know. I don't know if they successfully did, but
Wow.
regardless, it seems like there's articles out there, right? So I'm not saying
Well, that
anything,
means it's true. That means
but
it's true.
yeah, let's hope, man. Let's hope it gets built.
What stage
The
are they at
beauty.
right now?
I mean, they're like, what are they? How many floors above grade are they?
10
They're
floors.
getting up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
20 floors. I don't even know. Every time I
gonna
go
make it.
anywhere now, because I go nowhere ever, it's like, holy shit, that thing just came out of nowhere.
Darryl,
TK.
something's been happening out there lately.
I
I've been
know,
seeing
I
a
feel
lot
it.
of views. I'm seeing more views on this channel than we have subscribers. What does that
Hmm.
mean?
Means people need to subscribe. I think.
So it means people are watching the show and they're not subscribing?
Yeah, like half.
Makes no sense.
I don't understand.
Guys,
what are you doing?
like, comment, subscribe, hit the damn bell.
It's an hour. Like, just do it. Jesus. It's crazy. But hold on a sec. Before we get into anything else, guys, Stateview Homes. Like, we got to start with this. This is
We're gonna start with
pre-construction
this.
at its finest.
I thought
okay?
we started with the one. I thought that was pretty good.
The one's pretty good,
Right.
Ben. We're going to get into that because that's like that's not a story in the news. Like, we need to get people's attention at the beginning of the show, TK. This is like
Okay.
people actually watch this thing. It's believe it or not. And we have
Sometimes.
Jordon here. Like, this guy's
We
this
got all
guy's
the
as
answers today.
famous as you
Well,
can get.
Let's see, Jordan, like the Stateview Homes thing. I mean, is this something that you think is going to be widespread? You think this is just something that's unique to this one particular developer?
Is it
What do you think?
different?
It seems to happen every few years like clockwork. A smaller but rapidly expanding developer seems to get into hot water by overextending themselves, over leveraging themselves, assuming
Mhm.
the bull market will continue. And yeah, we can paste over the problems and the unethical things we've done by just selling 100 more homes, right? It seems to happen like clockwork. I mean, I don't know, like it just, to me, this is something that happens pretty frequently. It happens, you see it happen every few years. This is no different. Obviously, they're denying everything, as their PR department should probably.
Mhm.
Well, I
but
mean,
we got rid of that
it's
guy.
hard to notice like an extra 37 mil. I mean, you don't just, look at your bank statement and notice that kind of thing.
no, it's pretty easy to miss that.
It's hard. It's hard.
And it's
to
just
see.
a coincidence that we're not doing so well and making payments and all these other things that are happening. But, that guy's problems are totally isolated. Otherwise everything's fine and everything's going to get built. Right?
Well, I know someone personally, actually, that was also part of some kind of a scam through TD. That was an inside job that's like currently in litigation.
Mhm.
So, like, I think TD's got a couple of holes in it.
Target on the back. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, they're getting shorted like
Yeah.
more than anyone on earth.
There was
What
a
is
client
going
who came to me years back, and when I Googled their name, they were into like, you know, it was like mob related. Like they named some of the, like the you know, the family in the news article, and like
Oh
he
my
was like check
God.
kiting and things. And yeah, like it's I think that's those are the real scammers. Those guys, they're the big leagues. 37
Yeah, I
million.
remember I had a client come to me
37.
for a pre-construction penthouse once, and just out of curiosity, I Googled his name because he wasn't well, he was a Canadian, but he
Wasn't adding up, right? Yeah.
didn't live here. And sure enough, he was getting sued by a third world country for 800 and something million dollars in embezzlement of
Perfect.
government
Perfect.
funds.
Perfect. That guy. Get that guy an
You
immigration
sold him
card
3
right
units.
now.
Right.
That guy's a Canadian
Hey,
for
so
sure.
I'll give you my Stateview home story. Okay. I promised Darryl I would. So Jordon, you can appreciate this because pre-construction is not my thing. It's not our team's thing. We don't have a pre-construction department. There's nobody on our team who says anything about pre-construction and advertising it anyway whatsoever. But Stateview Homes approached us in December, right before the Christmas holidays, to say we wanted us to sell a project for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so initially it was like, okay, what the heck are you talking to us for? And
that's what I asked you.
Right. And afterwards, I realized that, you know, this was maybe just a little bit of desperation. They wanted access to our marketing and stuff like that. I saw them marketing outside in other places a lot. So I could tell like they were really trying to push this, but it was like 5-year away freehold towns. Is that normal? Does that ever happen?
I don't really sell freehold. Historically
Okay, but
speaking,
like,
freehold
doesn't make sense,
No,
right?
no,
You're
but what
right. The
these
build
guys
cycle
they
should
were
be quicker.
reserving, no, weren't they? They weren't even selling. They were like doing a reservation process, which is not the same. What's the
whatever?
difference,
It was
Jordan?
like years away, and
reservation in lieu of APS because we don't have the APS ready, which is actually we don't have the approvals, and therefore,
Do you see that in high rise?
Some not high rise, but in some boutique buildings with small developers in Oakville and Barrie, we've seen it. Yeah, for sure.
Really?
Which I try to stay away from anything like that. Like when
I've
I go
never
on,
heard of
you
that,
know, like
actually.
like we had this developer in Barrie, and when you go to their website, they have like their entire portfolio is 2 relatively small, like 30,000 square foot warehouses. They have logistics warehouses they have under management. So I told my clients, I'm like, this is, you know, the odds of success of this project are very low. So perhaps we should have focused our attention elsewhere. But yeah, it happens. You do see it from time to time.
So let's help people with that then. So timelines are important. So if you're buying into a project, you obviously are going to research this for your clients to say, okay, they're telling you that this is going to be done in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. You have to figure out if that's a realistic timeline, if they have approvals, if they have zoning, all that type of stuff. And so in this particular project, you wouldn't have been advising anybody to buy into a freehold that was just reserving spaces in a development that may or may not even happen. That seems like it's
yeah, that's a fair statement.
We might have been willing to do it.
But
I don't know.
who the hell
Again, we're
in
not
the-
the pre-construction guys.
But
Either way, it wasn't working out with the terms that I guess we would be willing to do, and what they were willing to do was not going to work out. But man, am I glad that didn't happen.
What end user though is like, this is great. Like, I'm going to give you my money and it's like not even tied to anything. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Where can I sign up?
Investors love it, right? The longer the timeline, the better for most investors, obviously. As long as it gets built, that being the key phrase, right?
What's the longest timeline in the city of Toronto, like right now, that people are pitching? Like, is it 2028 now? Like what, 2030?
Yeah, 28. But I mean, like, look, you can look at some buildings that have like marketed occupancy dates and look at what they're actually building and go, okay, like it's probably going to be late. And so some investors actually like that. Like, you know, you have the thing is with Tarion, like you can move your occupancy date into the future without offering people a way out of their contract, but you cannot move it backwards, right? So nobody wants to advertise 26 and deliver late 25 because they've just given every purchaser a way out of the contract. But if you advertise 26 and you deliver in 28, it's all gravy. There's no worries, right?
Yeah.
So
a few old ladies maybe moving from a big house who have to wait a little bit longer for their penthouse with the south exposure.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the investors are happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So hold on a sec. What happens with mortgages in between the interim closing and the actual closing?
Well, there is no mortgage.
No, but like you don't lock in a rate at the interim closing, right? Like your rate. Can you?
If you wanted to, you could go to RBC. I mean, we have people who went to RBC and got 2.5-year rate holds for project completion because they were buying towards the tail end of the sales, and they said, I might as well lock in the rate.
Geniuses.
2.5
Some of them,
year
right? Some of them
lock-in.
probably, if they did that, the timing was right on the right project, that could have been a huge savings.
Yeah.
RBC's kicking themselves.
But again, the project has to close on time. So that's the other thing, because you can sit in interim occupancy for a year, which is brutal. Like I have, there's been a few projects that like sat in interim occupancy for over a year. And so like a year ago, you take occupancy, you're looking at your interest rates, you're like, this isn't too bad. And then as you progress through your interim occupancy, you're just seeing rate hike.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. It's like, what the hell's going on? So hold on, let's back up a bit. Explain for people, because I don't think a lot of people know even what an interim closing is. I don't even think most purchasers that maybe have contracts now even know what an interim closing is gonna be. So can you explain that to people in a easy way? Yeah,
sure. So there's no title on the property, right? And this only exists in Ontario. There's no title on the property, but the building's ready to move into. Maybe the only thing incomplete are your amenities. So you're going to have to pay the builder, because you got to remember the builder's still paying their construction finance. They're paying all their debt off, right? So you have to pay the builder the interest only payment on the 80, assuming you have 20% down on whatever balance is yet to be paid to the builder, because they don't get the money from your bank, obviously, until there is a title on final closing. So take the keys to your unit, you get to live in the unit, but you're paying what people will refer to as rent to the builder, which is just your interest only payment on the 80% balance based on the Bank of Canada overnight, your projected maintenance fees, and your estimated property taxes. Right.
Nice. Now, Jordan, just an example for you. So somebody right now who wants to sell, and they have a closing coming up, interim occupancies next month, but we don't expect them to actually have to take title for, a year after or less. Would you suggest that they would take occupancy and assign it during that time? Or would you accept, like, depending on their situation, would you say, look, it might be better for you to close and to be able to transfer title afterwards? Like, what would you think?
Depends on the unit type. And obviously their personal finances. Like, there's no one size fits all, but generally speaking, the assignment market is as cutthroat as I've ever seen it. Like, there's an abundance of people looking to get out of these contracts. And people have to remember, like, people get really frustrated when they're selling via assignment, particularly if they didn't buy with me, because this was never explained to them. They think that, there's a building launching across the street at $1,700 a square foot. Why the hell won't my assignment sell at $1,300 a foot? There's no bids at $1,300 a foot. How does that make any sense? What they don't realize is, just like when you went to buy that pre-construction condo 5 years ago, you weren't entertaining the idea of assignments because you didn't have 20, 30, 40% cash ready to put down. It's the same thing today. Nobody looking at that building across the street launching at 1,700 and considering buying a unit is even interested in your assignment. They're two completely separate buying pools. And the buying pool of assignments, you have two. 90% of assignment buyers are investors looking to fleece somebody. And right now there is an abundance of people who are willing to be fleeced to get out of their units. And the other 10% is an end user looking for something very specific. I want a 1,500 square foot unit with a terrace overlooking the future Green Line Park. I want a 2,000 square foot Lakeview unit, right? Which most investors didn't buy. So those assignments are rarely, if ever, available because they've been purchased by end users anyways. So really what it comes down to is you're selling to an investor who has a lot of capital put aside, knows what an assignment is, and is specifically looking to get a disgustingly good deal, right? Like that's what an assignment buyer is. Yeah. And they have their pick of the litter right now, right? Like
so even if you can put it on the MLS during the occupancy period and have showings and all that stuff to market to the end users and stuff like that, that's maybe another scenario that you think could work.
That helps for sure. Yeah,
because I see those on the MLS. I've never done one, but I see them assignment sale, but you can show it, right?
Yeah, the agent on the other end, like the buying agent, just needs to understand assignments and understand the differences, because I find what happens during those occupancy periods, on the rare instances when you can list on MLS, like a lot of agents will call me and be like, I don't know how to do an assignment deal. Like, what does this look like? How much cash do I have to? And it's just like, it's a mess because a lot of agents just don't know what an assignment is or what's required to complete an assignment deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can also be super frustrating.
So how much
changes too lately?
How much, like, is there anybody tracking or any way to know, like, how much inventory is there in the assignment market now?
There's no way to know.
It's 100%. Right? Every unit ever bought is up for assignment right now.
But it must be crazy. It must be like close to the inventory of like Toronto resale market. No,
it's
there
not.
must be.
Not.
No.
The WhatsApp group, so that because they repost
Why?
them
Because
and-
it's like they come in waves as the buildings are getting closer to
Yeah, so it's like it
completion.
used to be like like a 400 unit building is closing, like maybe like 8 units, 12 units make it to the assignment market. Now it's like a 400 unit building is closing, like 40 units hit the assignment market.
10%. That's not that bad.
That's not bad.
No, but it's not getting absorbed.
How many get absorbed? Right.
That's the
right.
problem.
It's
So
not
how are
what they're
people
looking
closing
for.
right now? Like those ones that you know of this year,
Mhm.
or in the last whatever year. What are they doing to close? Like, what are the extremes that people have to go to in order to be able to close those units? Because now obviously their rates are different, qualifying is different.
Beg, borrow, and steal. I mean, a lot of the people looking to sell their assignments, at least with us, like have been people who can close if push comes to shove. So they're like, hey, list my unit at original purchase plus 10%. That way I'm not eating a loss. And if we get it, we get it. And if we don't, we close. Right. Like that's the bulk. Is it's just people who are like looking at the market. They're like, I don't really want to rent this thing out for negative cash flow. I don't know what the next 3 years holds for the property market. I'd like to just get out of this hole, get my deposits back, pay my commissions, pay my legal fees, and still make 10 grand or whatever. Just like walk away from this thing. But like
is that the formula plus purchase price plus 10%?
Roughly. I mean, it depends
be.
on the building. It could be, yeah. But yeah, those most of those people in my experience are just closing.
Just closing.
Yeah.
So like that's crazy, right?
So they don't want to take a loss, like the investors in the assignment market.
But how are they getting
want blood?
approved?
They're like, you're going to make 10 grand on this? I don't think so. I want you to cover X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Like it's.
But like how are some of these people getting approved?
Well, they're not end users; they're investors, right?
They're all investors.
5 years ago, they bought a $400,000 one bedroom, right? So yeah, rates have gone up a lot, and the ratios are different than they were. But like, if you were stretched to the limit already, like, why were you buying a four? Like, you know what I mean? Most people weren't. Right. Most people whose like primary takes up their whole ratio, they've got like no ability to service any more debt. Like they're not buying, or they shouldn't be buying one bedroom pre-construction condos for investment to close on. So, you know, in borrowing costs being up, like for most people, like it does, like believe me, I've had some situations where some people, just because of me being in the media and my YouTube channel and stuff, like some people have approached me and like, hey, I'm closing on 3 condos, like $2 million in commitments. And here's my income. And here, like, what do I do? And I'm like, you're fucked.
You're fucked,
you're
buddy.
fucked.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you the scenario of the week. And obviously I don't get these often, but these are the real stories that are out there right now. Is somebody bought a property, right? I won't give too many details here. That was way more than they could ever afford. And their solution to being able to afford this was to buy 3 more smaller ones so that they could flip those in the meantime, once they were ready to close, to
and
make enough money to be able to qualify for the big one that they really wanted to get into.
Who needs Dave Ramsey? This is genius.
Right.
This is the Canadian playbook right here. This is right from the playbook.
Guys, this is what we're dealing right now. It's like, all right, little Johnny needs a new bike. Refinance the house. Oh, last week I was sick. I couldn't work. Refinance the house. Like, this is the economy we're in. It's so scary what could be coming down the pipeline for some of these people, right? It's insane.
Well, I think that like just the pre-construction condo investing phase caught a lot of people who shouldn't really have been pre-construction condo investors.
So, but is it going to change?
Not in a position to ever have done that. But everybody around them, they felt like was doing it. So they went ahead and bought a 1 bedroom or whatever. Right. And a lot of them just like didn't really have any business doing that.
Is it going to change? Does it need to change? Or do those people just need to be like pumped out of the system?
I think they need to be washed out, but also I don't think it's going to change.
Right.
Like sentiment, you know, there's been a couple launches in the past few weeks and sales centers are packed again. And as somebody who sells these things, even I'm sitting there scratching my head, like, what's going on?
Yeah. I had lunch with Ryan and Adam yesterday, and everybody's like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. So a bunch of us who make our living on selling these pre-construction condos are looking around like, is everybody okay?
Yeah. Like, what are they thinking?
You sure you want to buy one? You sent me back your worksheet in like 5 minutes. What's going on?
Yeah. I'll take your money.
So
but like,
explain that. Sorry, there's been a few launches. So when you say they're busy, so they're selling, they're Like the worksheets
Oversubscribing.
oversubscribing. Okay. So it's like
Oversubscribing.
no issues
Lineups.
whatsoever. Everybody's lining up again to be able to make it work.
And
Yes
the
and no, like
prices.
it's very area and price point, and particularly entry price point dependent.
Why? What didn't
Okay.
do good lately?
Anything launching downtown is not doing well.
Not doing well.
Oh,
So what launched
interesting.
downtown that didn't do well?
I'm not going to say names, but
Okay.
there's been a few core launches,
Really?
and people just aren't interested. But
Like
you launch
within
something
the
in the
last-
905s around that 1,000 a foot mark, and
Really?
That's
you're
what it
gonna have a
is.
lineup.
Because don't you have to launch at like 2,000 a square foot now? Isn't that like
Where's
downtown core? Like,
1,000
what
a
do you have to
square
launch at?
foot? What's 1,000 a square foot? Who's doing that right now?
You've got Mattamy in Oakville doing that.
Oh,
1,100 a
that's not
foot,
fair.
parking included. You have North Shore and Aldershot at 1,100 a foot. You've got something coming
That's
in.
the Burlington thing?
Yeah.
I did a calculation. I came up with like 1,300 a foot.
Yeah, no, there were units under 11. And then
Under
you have
11.
and then you have one coming in Hamilton from Slate that's really aggressively priced as well that I'm sure will blow out.
Really? Hamilton.
Yeah, but that's where you got to go. You want 1,000 a
That's where you
foot?
gotta
That's where you got to
go?
go.
But
1,000
is
a
that right
foot
though? Like
in
downtown,
Hamilton.
obviously the price per square foot because it's very futuristic. Because like you're looking at way longer time frame, I'm sure, to build, and so everyone's
Yeah.
projecting, of course, a certain amount of appreciation. So
Well, it's also like COVID really screwed up price premiums in rents, right? So like, I'm seeing some one bedrooms in around 600, high 500 square foot range lease in a newly completed building in downtown Hamilton at 2,200 a month. So I can lease a 600 square foot one bedroom in Humber Bay, Etobicoke, for 2,400, or I can do it in Hamilton for 2,200. So I'm only saving $200 a month. But if I want to buy the same unit on the pre-construction market, I'm going to pay $250,000 more in Humber Bay.
Yeah.
So a lot of investors are just looking at that going, well, okay, so I'm saving $250K, which is what, $1,200 a month in debt service. But my
Giving
rent is
up
only
$200
$200 lower. So I'm $1,000 net better investing in Hamilton.
Are
it's the same
maintenance
thing,
fees the same in Hamilton as they are in Toronto?
pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, it makes
Probably
sense. It
taxes
should
higher,
be.
but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the long and short of it. Is it makes
1,000.
sense for investors to be buying. So those sales centers that are people lining up for right now, it's a good investment compared to what other options they've got. Right.
Yeah. If
That's
they're
what it is.
if they're seeking a better monthly I mean there's no cash flow. So if they're seeking a better
Less
monthly
risk.
just
There's
outlook,
less risk.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
there's less
makes
risk.
sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you believe that rent premium is gone for good, right? If you believe that, fast forward 10 years and the picture's relatively similar, then yeah, Hamilton makes a whole lot of sense.
These are the things I've been thinking about lately is we've had so much inflation. And again, not an inflation expert, but like, I don't think it goes back down. I think wherever we're at right now, it's just like, this is what it is. And we need to all be just getting used to the new price and cost of everything, right? Including housing, rent, all those things, right? And so
yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think life got more expensive permanently. I think people wishing for something else. It's optimistic thinking.
How's it gonna? It's gonna get worse. Like the only way to keep plugging $1 trillion holes is with trillions of dollars, right? Like you can't do it with millions now. So any like monetary response answer is like in the hundreds of billions at a minimum, right? I think, like, aren't we talking trillions nowadays all over the place? So like, how do costs come down in that environment? I just don't see it.
Nobody's going to just start selling their stuff cheaper. No company is going to be like, okay, fine.
The numbers will start getting
$5.99 instead of $6.99 that we were charging you before. It's not going to happen. Life is more expensive. The dollar's worth less.
We feel good today. We're going to charge you like 2008 prices today because we're nice. We don't like profits anymore. Like, let's get real. So, okay. So hold on. So nothing changes. Everything stays the same, but it's not like everything's getting crazier, right? Like, how is it possible that in this environment people are lining up to buy the most expensive product and the biggest decision in their life right now without even thinking about it? Really, like, you can't line up for 2 hours waiting for this thing and not have time to reflect on if it's a good idea.
Speculation is baked into Canadians' blood at this point.
Like you're
Right.
born
Like
a
blaming it
speculator.
blaming it on realtors in the email blast that they send out is
Ah,
ridiculous because we were doing the same thing 6 months ago and nobody was calling us. Right.
right.
So
Mhm.
sentiment is an animal that cannot be controlled for. And in Toronto and in the GTA specifically, it is a fickle beast. It is very forward looking. You don't need rate cuts to get it all stimmed up. It's like the cocaine bear, man. All you need is rates not to go up.
Right. Like the
And it's
minute
like the
they
green
even,
light.
yeah,
Yeah.
as soon as they said we're like gonna maybe pause, everybody was like the doors were breaking down already, right? Like
Mhm.
people were, I said it so many times. I felt like people were just waiting for somebody to say, like,
It's
okay,
okay. You're good to
go,
go.
Mhm.
go. Right.
And
And
where will
like,
rates be when those are built? Right. So everyone right now, based on what I'm hearing and seeing, is that nobody feels like rates are going to go up much further, and everyone feels like rates will have to go back down in the
Mhm.
future. So when those places are built, maybe they'll be getting a 2 or 3% interest rate again.
Yeah, and
don't
it's
know
also
how,
interesting, like, the CIBC report that was recently out that showed excess cash is still growing.
right.
I've been
How does that make
saying this. I've been
sense?
saying this for
How?
over a year, and people have been calling me a shill. And I'm like, no, man, my top 50% clients, like finances
Right.
wise, they're doing better than
They
they've
did
ever done.
better. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I don't know what to tell you, but like what I'm seeing is like I'm getting tons of calls from people who are like, I have a shitload of cash on the sidelines. Tell me when and where. Find
Mhm.
me an assignment, a couple assignments that I can fleece somebody on. Like find me somewhere to park this capital.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
And now you have the CIBC data backing that anecdote up. And I'm like, yeah, like this makes sense to me. And of course, no one's gonna be like rushing to deploy that capital while rate hikes are still happening. But again, like the GTA is such a levered market. There's so much debt on every purchase that, you know, it is a very sophisticated market. Real estate is a primary topic of conversation for everybody from all walks of life. And
Everywhere.
so when rates stop going up, the market is already thinking ahead, right? We saw that when rates first started hiking. Like the GTA took the biggest bath first because it's forward looking and people price in their expectations very quickly. Whereas in these other smaller, more affordable markets, you don't see that type of forward thinking.
Makes sense. And that's
It
and
makes
that's exactly what
sense.
it is the news travels fast. You're sitting at dinner talking to somebody and everyone's like, yeah, rates are done. That's it. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden it's just like this, spiraling out of control sentiment. Because when
Mhm.
things were going the other way, we know what those conversations were like. Don't buy. Things aren't good. Everybody's going to be struggling. But the banks
Mhm.
came in and have bailed everybody out right now. I mean, the banks are holding mortgages, amortizations, and reverse
Yeah.
negative amortizations like it's going out of style. They are going to pump this market until it's back to where they want it to be. And then they'll give everybody an exit strategy if they need to get out or not, you know?
Sure feels like it. Yeah. It sure
Yeah.
feels like taking on ridiculous risks to a degree has been rewarded in this country repeatedly, especially through COVID in the last few years. And with the exception of people who went a little too far, which I've seen a few of in the assignment space. But
December
I
to
don't think,
March 2020, December 2021 to March 2022. Those are the mistakes, but everybody else is going to be just fine.
yeah, but hold on a sec. Wait, because okay, so that's one segment of people, right? Those are the end users that are in trouble because they did that. But there's got to be another wave. There's got to be multiple, like you were saying. How did you describe them? Like smaller, fast growing, balls to the wall developers, younger guys that took on a lot of projects in good times, and
Mhm.
like some of those have to come crashing down, I think, because I don't
100%.
like I've got a list of guys that I've just been going like, how the fuck do these guys do this? And where the fuck are they getting all this money from? And how are they putting so many deals together? And like not even in Toronto, like all across the states and all over the place. Like there's some guys that are like huge all of a sudden. And like not in like 10 years, like in like 6 years. And I gotta think that like some of those guys are gonna go. And then so what happens when that happens to all those end users, right? And even in the Stateview Homes thing, like what happens to all the purchasers or people that are reservationists or whatever that you call them, right? Like what
Yeah.
happens to all these people and their money? Because this is not like a Tarion thing, is it?
Tarion covers up to $100,000 or 10%
Even
of
for
purchase price.
fraud, bank fraud?
I don't know. So that's
I
where
don't
things get
know.
interesting. But
This
also
is-
just like if you bought a $200,000 freehold with 20% down, 100 grand being covered isn't exactly a breath of fresh air to you.
Well, I mean, better than nothing, but yeah,
It's certainly better than nothing. But I mean, and then that's one of the nice things about condos. Like, A, they take so long to build. So the likelihood of you closing negative equity is much lower than freehold, right?
Mhm.
When you're taking 5-6 years to build. And B, I can't sell until I can't collect your deposits until I have excess condominium deposit insurance. I don't have an option as a developer. So your entire deposit amount is insured.
Well, that causes all other kinds of problems.
Right.
But yeah,
from a consumer standpoint, at least at least that's there for you.
Yeah, there's
Whereas
never been a time, I guess, if you think about that there's never been a condo launch where the people paid more money at the time of launch than it was worth at the time of closing.
not a launch, but there's been instances where, like, I've seen it in the past year where somebody bought at the lingering inventory at the very tail end.
oh,
So they bought
God.
like a year before closing. And some of those people, there was a project in Liberty Village. Some of those people, yeah, they had appraisal gaps because they paid the pre-construction premium, but they were closing in a year.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But
But at the launch
it's
stage, which is why I guess the whole, dealing with somebody who's got the inside track is the benefit because you are getting in at the earliest point, which means that it's the least amount of risk by the time it's all said and done. You have the best chance of being in a positive equity position.
If all the other fundamentals align, right?
Yeah.
The price is right, the developer is right, and you're getting
course.
it 5 years. Yeah, then
Yeah.
100%.
But the timeline of it, right? So yeah, these freehold, the example that I gave you about the buy 3 to buy another, that was freehold, right?
Right.
So they were all expecting to do this in a year.
That's
and
crazy, man.
and it's burned, right? And
but those were on pre-construction freehold.
pre-construction freeholds,
Oh,
yeah,
for
small builders,
God's
big builders, everything.
sakes.
And there's
Like-
another couple people too in similar scenarios, but like, yeah, just no real thought process on how am I going to close this? Like that was never a question that was asked.
Mhm.
It was just, I'm going to be able to sell this before
More than
I
I
need to
paid.
worry about that.
But that's
And
what
that's the
the
problem.
trusted
They blame the realtors.
salesperson.
They blame the realtors. But at the end of the day, I've seen people make mistakes where they blame the realtor and I nod and smile and I say, yeah, yeah, yeah. But people have to take responsibility, You can't just always say that my agent is an idiot and that he didn't tell me. Obviously, that's their job.
Well, it's also
But-
it's great. It's real. That is an interesting debate to me. Like 100%, there's a lot of pre-construction agents, both freehold and condos, that say real estate only goes up if you don't buy now. You're just losing money every month. You don't buy, blah 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 blah. Sure, whatever, right? But if you, as a consumer, take that advice and like, I don't know how else to put it, but you're an idiot.
Right.
Like there has to be some
Critical thinking.
caveat emptor here. Like there has to be some, like, you're responsible for the financial decisions you make. You can't just say, well, the realtor said that condo prices will for sure be more in 2025 than 2020. It's like,
Sure.
of course he did, because he's a fucking condo realtor.
That's right.
How well would he do as a salesperson if he was out there telling people could be higher, could be lower, we don't really know. Buy with me. I clearly
Figure
know
it
what I'm
out.
talking about.
Yeah.
Like
right?
it's like it's remarkable, man. It's like
Yeah.
when I schedule a call with a software salesperson at HubSpot trying to sell me a $40,000 a year CRM, I don't expect him to go through the qualification criteria with me and then tell me, you know what, actually, I think Salesforce is a better fit for you.
You may want to like wait till this is on sale.
The guy sells HubSpot. He's going to sell me HubSpot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just remarkable when people use that excuse to me.
Yeah.
It's different if there was fundamentally, if fundamentally they were lying to you, right?
But
not just giving you opinion. Like fundamentally, they lied about the transaction. They lied about where your deposits were held. They lied about the developer's history. Then that's a different story entirely.
But pre-construction sales is marketing. It's a marketing. It's a whole marketing thing. Obviously, sales are part of marketing, but I mean, is it different than like a Coca-Cola commercial where they highlight the benefits of things and they completely ignore the fact that it will kill you if you drink it long enough, or a McDonald's commercial where like the burger just like I've never seen a burger at McDonald's that looks like it does in the commercial. And I'm just saying, it's like this perception has been built not by individual realtors. And I mean, look, developers are part of it. It's a whole big
By a
stew,
collective.
right? It's a big
It's by a
fucking
collective, yeah.
collective that has fucked this thing up so bad that
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you fix it now?
Well, so the thing is, like, you start to recognize trends as a developer. You're like, wow, people really like this master plan community idea, right? They really like buying into phase one of a master plan community because they know the subsequent phases will be more expensive, and they think on paper they've made money. Therefore, well, we've got a standalone building here. Let's just advertise it as a master planned neighborhood. And so just the definition of things just stretches with marketing, right? Because everything's luxury.
Yeah, look at Thornhill
opulent.
Woods. Thornhill Woods technically was not in Thornhill. And then just north of it, you have Thornhill like Estates or something. And it was all just to kind of build on the idea of Thornhill. Thornhill was a nice place to live.
Had no more land left.
You could get more money in Thornhill. But it was a
Yeah.
marketing ploy because it's not Thornhill. It's like Vaughan.
Yeah,
right?
no, I mean, that's just the way that marketing happens.
But that's that stretch. I'm like, when you say that, but that's what happens is everybody stretches it. And now it becomes like Parkdale North, right?
Like,
it's
I remember a project back in 2016 or 17 in Oakville was marketed consistently by every broker and by the developer themselves as steps to the lake.
Right.
1.8
step
kilometers.
on the bus and then you get to the lake.
It's a few thousand steps.
Yeah.
A couple thousand steps.
You might make it.
The protection, the government brought this in. I don't know how long ago they brought this in, but you have the 10-day rescission period. You have a reason for that. Obviously, people bring things to their lawyer. People, get things checked out. It's important for people to understand what it is that what they're signing and all that kind of stuff. But whoever shops it around to, their friends or, another realtor or somebody else, like, you have an opportunity to be able to say, is this a good investment or not? Right. And I think that's where the consumer has to understand is like, it wasn't a really sharp tongued salesperson who sold you that unit where you sign on the dot and now you can't get out. They gave you 10 days. There's a reason it's 10 days. You've completely, all the emotional tension that you've built up from that one day at that sales center has an opportunity to leave, and you get to think clearly about if this is a good decision or not. And you chose to continue with the transaction at that point.
Yeah, but you're focused on all those people that were behind you in line. Right. And you're like,
you have a chance.
I have to go ahead. I'm going to make a fortune here.
Those people
I'm going to make
a
fortune selling a piece of paper. I'm a genius.
Well, it's also,
right.
You know what's funny? It never works the flip way, right? Someone makes $200,000 on a 1-bedroom that they almost didn't buy because they were terrified by their friends and family. But that sharp-tongued realtor made sure they stayed true to that purchase, convinced them routinely during the 10-day cooling period, made them, comfortable speaking to a lawyer, went through the closing costs, explained why these closing costs are okay, and kept them on track to close with that property, made $200,000. Well, 5 years later, they're never going, thank God that realtor was a good salesman who knew how to coax me through those emotional ups and downs during the 10 days. But of course, if they lose $200,000, that realtor's a real piece of shit, huh?
Yeah.
So it's really funny the way it works.
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely.
But this is the business.
So just a suggestion. And I think I've said it before, like, why don't we make it mandatory that during that 10-day period, you have to come back with a sign off from a lawyer, like mandatory, and maybe even better than a lawyer, some kind of financial advisor that
because financial advisors have a vested interest in selling you a different product that they take commission on.
Well, but this is, it's like there needs to be somebody that goes, you know what, like, I've checked the finances and I've checked no, but really, like, somebody that can like double check that you're actually capable, because
that's a big, I agree with that. That's why I tell people to get their mortgage pre-approval in the 10-day period, because it will give you a lot of comfort that this is something you're actually capable of taking on.
Because people
think builders are asking for that anyways, though, aren't they?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, so again, those are all the things.
Nobody pushes you to, I'll tell you what, the developer does not push you to get it done in the 10 days. In fact, they would love for you to start the process on day 11.
Makes sense. Then help you figure it out after you've already committed to it. Yeah.
Of course,
eventually,
that's not
though,
everybody. Like,
do
there are some
builders,
developers who There are some developers who their inside sales rep are trained specifically not to let somebody sign on their first visit to a sales center, to ask them to go home, think about it, come back tomorrow if they really want to sign for it. That's rare. There's only one team I'm thinking about when I say that. But regardless, yeah.
That's cool. And what about the letter that the builder wants to see closer to occupancy or closing? They want to know, can you still get this mortgage? Is that something that's
No, you
common?
just get the you just get the mortgage pre-approval, 30, 60, 90 days from the time that you bought the unit, and that's good. Unit's yours.
Okay. So the builders
and then
aren't
even if
checking
you
on you.
don't get the mortgage pre-approval, like the builder has the ability to refund your deposits and take your unit back, but it depends on the situation, right? Like they have a certain commitment to their lender of how many units need to be pre-qualified for a mortgage. So if you're one of the 15% that don't bother to get a mortgage pre-approval, they probably won't hassle you for one.
Why? There's a percentage of people that don't need a pre-approval.
Depends on the builder and their lender, right?
Makes
Now,
sense. Some fall through the cracks.
Is it possible that those pre-approvals are not totally legit? Like, who the hell is giving a pre-approval for a project that won't close for 6
We at the Canadian Real Estate
years?
Show will provide you with a letter of intent that
That's
says
right.
you will have financing in 2030 from somebody. Okay,
for a small fee.
Just fill out this form on the website and the details.
So a lot of builders will have a couple of in-house mortgage brokers, which aren't actually in-house, but they'll have, a contact. They'll give you a contact list. Here's someone at BMO, here's someone at TD, here's someone at RBC, here's someone so that you can go to your own bank, someone who's familiar with the project, the closing date, the developer, etc., so that it's easier than just going to your mortgage broker who's like, I don't really want to do a mortgage pre-approval for something that I'm not getting paid for, right? It's not, you don't need a mortgage for 6 years. And what's the likelihood that you use me for the mortgage in 6 years? So they get a list of vetted people from each bank or whatever. And that's usually where the clients go. And then of course you have your clients who, maybe 5% of buyers or maybe 10% that call me in the 10 days and they're like, hey, Jordon, can you handle this for me? And I'm like, what do you mean by that? I can send you my favorite mortgage brokers. I've got a list. I got, Christian, Colin, I got, here's my guys. Here's the banks they work at. And they'll go, no. I bought a pre-construction 5 years ago and the broker just handled it for me. And I'm like, well, no, I can't do that for you. That's called fraud. You're going to have to give me the letterhead. Right. Yeah. Like you're going to have to go to one of these people. My relationship with the developer is worth more to me than the one deal with you. Like you got to go get a mortgage pre-approval. So I don't know how many are fraudulent, but I would assume that a fair amount of them are. Like, there's companies in Toronto whose entire job is to create fake job letters and income docs for tenants. I
love that video you made.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was so
right. So
good.
If we extrapolate that, we say, okay, well, what else are they capable of? Yeah. Right. I'm sure that's not the only thing they do at their business.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah. We did that whole CBC marketplace thing, right? So yeah, the same people would be doing those the same way.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a fee, I'm sure.
You pay for sure.
Probably in cash.
There was a guy that I had, this is true. I told this the last time too, but there's a guy, he owned a condo downtown and he needed to refinance. And he said to me, he needs to find one of those people. And I asked like certain agents that I know and trust. I asked like a couple mortgage brokers that I know. I couldn't even find one of those guys. Yeah. Like they're not, I don't know where they're hanging out, Brampton, but I was trying to find them and I couldn't,
Careful.
So I don't think it's that easy. I think you just have a few people out there who are doing it, but
it's probably my guess is it's probably a small group who do it at scale.
Yeah.
To make the fake paperwork to get the fake mortgage.
Right. My bet is it's a small group who do it at scale.
Yeah, and they probably disappear and turn into somebody else, and
I wouldn't be surprised if
kidnap
they're not even
the children of the bank
country.
Employee. And
they have connections, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy scams. There's a lot of things blowing up, and I can't see it ending soon. Like I really think that we have more drama ahead of us. Like
this bank collapse again in the States is just like another one. Like it's
another one.
100 million or 100 billion or how much money was taken out in the first quarter of this year? Like, it was a crazy amount of money. I think the one thing that I've never felt, and I guess this is something that they've always told me, like, especially after the Great Recession, that, our banking system's so much better than the States. Like, I've never felt like TD is not going to have my money.
Right.
Maybe I don't have enough money to have that problem, but I've never thought, we should go to the bank because TD is not stable. And I think that in the States, it must be a totally different feeling.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I should get my money out of TD right now.
don't know.
I left like $140 in the account. And
Yeah,
I don't even want to leave that there anymore.
I don't think TD is ever going to have TD would get bailed out by the government in a heartbeat.
The big
problems.
five, I'm not
Yeah.
overly concerned with.
Oh my God. Didn't they say that about Lehman Brothers for a little while?
Sure. And it is true. Like, it's easy to watch a 10-minute explainer on YouTube of fractional reserve banking at 1 a.m. in the morning and get really scared. Be like, I'm at 9 a.m. I'm showing up, RBC, and you better I'm withdrawing everything and putting it under my mattress. Like, but of course.
Where do you put it now? Like, is there anywhere that you really believe it's safe?
I don't know, you spread it out. You spread it out amongst
everything. Hedge your bets all over the place.
Make sure you've got Bitcoin, a couple Bitcoin, and a couple different international airport lockers around the world. I don't know.
I put that out on Twitter, and that was that was like the
solution,
the biggest answer. Like, everybody was like, "Yeah, just Bitcoin in like a hard wallet," and I was like, it just doesn't sound like that's going to work later. Like, when I need bread, when I need pasta and rice, I don't know if I'm giving my Bitcoin hard wallet over to somebody.
Well, I will tell you that in Costa Rica at the farmers markets, you can buy from almost every vendor with Bitcoin.
No fucking way. Really?
Yep.
No way. How? Through what?
Just wallets that you just show them and they can check
wallet to wallet.
And they can check on their end that it's incoming, because obviously it may not, the Bitcoin may not be in their wallet yet, but you can see it on the chain, right? And you walk away with your grass-fed beef or whatever you bought.
No way.
I bought a bunch of stuff when I was down there via Bitcoin, which was awesome. Super cool to see Bitcoin actually used for something.
Well, you go to El Salvador.
Like, there wasn't you were just doing that because you're like, hey, why not? They're accepting Bitcoin. Let's use it. Or was that like a convenience thing? What was it?
No, it's just I have multiple hard wallets, and then of course I have some on like ShakePay always, just in case, because you never know. I also bought a car in Florida a year ago with Bitcoin.
No way.
Like privately?
Like an old 1989 BMW, because it was cheaper. Well, it wasn't cheaper. That's a lie, but it was about the same price as having a rental for Jordan, 2 months.
And you're like, I need to spend this on something, right? Yeah. I think that would be more of the reason that I would use the Bitcoin, is just like, look, no, I'm not buying anything with Bitcoin. Let's just see what this is like, right?
No, but Jordan's like fully in there, right?
But
like,
how many purchases are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, those are like the only two things I've ever actually purchased with Bitcoin.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
when did you buy Bitcoin?
The first time I bought Bitcoin was 2013.
2013.
Through a company called QuickBT, which I think is gone now. A lot of those companies from back then are gone now.
You need to interview that Bitcoin mortgage company guy again. See if he's still
those
around.
guys are on
Remember
the run.
That shit?
Those guys are on the run.
6
the
months
first time
later.
I bought Bitcoin was with cash in a machine, because it was at a convenience store, and I thought, let me see what I can do with this. And I have no idea how I stored that. And I bet you there's a ton of people who are in the same boat as me, and that Bitcoin's just gone.
Oh my God. I bought it. I bought a little bit of Bitcoin. I watched it go up, and then I watched it go down, and I was like, that's enough for me. I'm out. Bye.
Yeah.
I can't do
2015. I tried it, but it wasn't what it was. I think it was like $700 or $800 a Bitcoin at that time.
I thought at one point, like, we were going to be buying real estate and pre-condos and like everything. Just press a button, you're going to buy a pre-condo with Bitcoin. And it just like didn't end up happening. Is that still on the horizon? Are we getting
I just think in general, adoption and you, like, things just take a lot slower than we think. Like,
Well, I think
like genuinely, like everything takes a lot longer and has a longer
it's
lifespan.
really
Like
true.
a lot of people are talking about AI replacing realtors within 2 years. I'm like, you people are fucking crazy.
No, that's crazy. It's
If you
going to be at
think that it can
least
happen
3.
that fast,
Yeah.
yeah, at least 3. Yeah, no, it's like, and also a lot of the people saying that they work like some bullshit admin job where they forward 4 PDFs and reply to 22 emails a day. And it's like, you're going to be replaced before anybody, buddy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Copywriters,
I
though, I
was-
mean, that's right now what everyone's saying. Copywriters are being replaced, and you don't need them anymore.
I was
yes
at
and no. Like, it depends what type of copy you're writing. If you're writing copy for SEO purposes, I mean, you want to be careful, because if you don't want to put AI generated content up on a website that's worth a lot of money to you, because like it's inevitable that it's just high risk, right? And then also but if you're just writing copy to write copy, then yeah, 100% you're easily replaceable. But if you're a sales copywriter, for example, but like, and I mean a high level sales copywriter, like somebody who writes sales letters that can convert at 10% higher than the in-house person at a company, and you're writing for a company that does, when they send out an email, 50, 100, $1 million in revenue, well, you're not going to be replaced anytime soon either, because just you understand the psychology of what sells that. So anyways, it's a long-winded answer, but yeah, I agree with you. Copywriting.
Are you using AI like to help your business in any way?
Yeah, here and there. Just like for a lot of just like admin related tasks. But
So it's
yeah,
something
those
that's
are
just
gonna-
going to aid,
not
like
for
kind of
content,
just enhance.
not for copy. I'm terrified of using it for content. Google has teeth, man, and right now they're not penalizing AI content because they can't detect it, but that doesn't mean anything about tomorrow.
Right. I was at a friend's house for dinner last night, and their kids are like, everybody's getting older. The kids are getting older, and we're sitting around, and they're all in university now, and they're, you know, they have to think about now. All of a sudden, one's in marketing and one's a lawyer, and both of them are sitting at the dinner table going like, we got to figure out how to do this and not get replaced by AI, because like their careers are still 3, 4, 5, a lawyer, 5, 6, 7 years away. Like things will change a lot in that time, and maybe won't be full replacements, but like it'll be so different than it is right now that I don't even think we can fathom how different things will be. Now, I agree. I think like for certain people, it will be an enhancer. And for certain people, it will just knock them out of the competition completely. Right. And they will create all kinds of like new stuff that we can't even imagine right now. But like, imagine, well, I guess it's not even that new, coming out of university and having a degree that's useless. I guess that's a old concept nowadays. But like, imagine like you're in the first, second year and you go, shit, how do I figure out how to outpace a supercomputer, like an AI brain, right? Because like a marketing guy, I'm sorry, but like, yeah, maybe there's going to be some geniuses that learn how to use this stuff and excel, but like all those mediocre and all those like
mediocrity is dead. Yeah, 100%.
Dead, right?
You can't float. You can't float anymore. You have to be in the top 5% of a skill set, or you're fucked. 100%. I agree with you. It's only a matter of time.
Right.
Like if you're a social media manager and you get a bunch of clients at $200 a month and you just post pictures for them, like you're in trouble.
What about a researcher? Like, what about like just a guy like, I don't know, Ben Rabideau. I don't know what how his thing works, but like his research must have like gone to a next level. And if he had other people doing it for him, like if you had 2, you definitely don't need both anymore. There's no way.
100%.
Right.
Yeah,
like if you pay $20 a month, like you've got a researcher like you've never seen before. Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we were able to go from 2 full-time copywriters to just 1, because she's leveraging AI to make her job a little bit quicker based on some standard operating procedures we laid out for her. Right. So we're putting out the same level of content, the same quantity of content, the same quality, but we're doing so in half the time technically.
Right. So imagine if you're a manager and you've got this team and you're like, okay, 50%, 50%. If I teach this 50% how to use AI, I can probably eliminate this 50%, right? Or even if it's 75, 25, like whatever the number is. If you're not thinking like that, you're stupid, or you're behind the times, and somebody else is for sure, and they're going to take you down. because
Mhm.
it's so powerful. It's insane. Like I
But it
use it
just
for
creates more efficiencies. So it creates more,
insane
it creates
efficiencies.
more economic output. And so what's going to happen is we're going to have more jobs that way. We're going to have more businesses. So maybe you need to serve in a restaurant, but we'll have more restaurants. We'll have more serving positions because there's going to be more people working in order to be able to sustain the economy that we have. So
Well,
I don't
hopefully
believe it's
that's
the
like,
end of, you know,
yeah, me neither. But I also hope that that's where it ultimately leads, right? Like you have a lot of people working jobs they're no good at and jobs they hate, just floating.
mhm,
Like, you know what I mean? Like they're committing an hour and a half, 2 hours of work a week because their job is actually a joke.
Right.
And they're not happy. And, you know, like this could be a way out for those people on a long enough time horizon. But I think in the interim, like things will probably get really uncomfortable for a lot of people.
sure,
And
there's going to be some
really
changes.
weird.
Yeah.
Like really weird. Have you
But it'll
seen
lead
some of this stuff?
it'll lead to other stuff. It'll lead to other deflationary things. It'll lead to other lifestyle efficiencies. So people will be able to live in these master plan communities right at the MTSAs, ready to go nowhere. They don't even need to go. They don't need a car anymore. So these are all the things that, will happen. But over time, it's going to be
I'm too dumb to understand all the ramifications and how it will play out. But I've been telling people for years, teach your kids sales, man.
Mm,
It'll be the longest surviving job.
Hmm.
that's a
Hmm.
great way to end the show, Daryl. Teach your kids sales.
Teach your kids
Yeah.
sales.
That's the one skill. The people skills of a salesperson cannot be replaced by a robot.
Maybe eventually, but it'll be a hurdle, right? Like there's a
Someone's
lot
got to
of
train that robot.
subtext and psychology behind it. And the best salespeople that I've had on my team, the best salespeople I've ever seen, highest producers, generally can't articulate why they do so well.
Do you see a pattern?
Mm,
I
that's
see
a good.
patterns.
That's
So
another
tell me,
good quote right there.
what is a quality that you noticed like is a pattern that all of those that excel carry?
Well, interestingly, the highest producers, real estate sales wise, are consistently the most introverted extroverts or the most extroverted introverts. So what I mean by that is,
I get it. Yeah.
yeah, if you
Either
type them on
Far end of the spectrum.
Party
yeah,
Bob, or in the room on the internet.
yeah, like no, they're generally introverted individuals. Um, is a way to paint them with a wide brush. And then like I could get into like I could talk about sales and salespeople for hours, but there's definitely some common threads in how they deal with prospects and leads, how they speak to people, and then particularly around habits, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you have your charismatic enigmas where there are individuals who are natural born salespeople and will do $500 million in volume a year or in commission a year, despite the fact that they don't have good principles and discipline, but they're the rarity and the exception to the rule. The rule is generally the people that I see that treat it like a real job, 9 to 9 or whatever, 5 days a week type of thing. And they have time blocks for themselves. Like these hours I do follow up to new leads. These hours I do follow through for leads and deliver what I said I was going to deliver yesterday to them. These
Mm-hmm.
hours I prospect. These hours I do showings. Like those people
100%.
tend to do very well.
Yep. If there's ever
This
a time where I haven't been on my game, it's because those little things start to fall apart. And then as
100%.
soon as you get back to that regiment, then it's like, oh, this works.
Mhm.
so disciplined, organized, and like is there like almost a fearlessness, like they're not afraid to cold call, they're not afraid to follow up with they're not afraid to do those things, or is it not that? Are they like just
No,
mechanical?
that's 100% a big part of it. It's not just about the mechanics. It's also about the intangibles on the phone. Like, I teach all my guys very similar scripts, and yet some people convert at 4% and some people convert at 1%. They have the same list of objection handlers. They have the same list of things to ask the client, but they listen and hear different things from clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can extrapolate what someone's telling them and the underlying motivation behind it, which is very difficult to do because when you call someone and you ask them, what are they looking for? They tell you, I'm looking for a 1-bedroom for 500, 600K or whatever. right? The difference between an average or mediocre salesperson and a brilliant one is understanding why they're investing in that property and accurately coaching them to the right fit. It may not even be what they initially came in for, right? So that's the other thing is I see a massive distribution skew, and people register for forma condos or whatever, and my mediocre or average salespeople then turn around and sell them forma. But my best salespeople, the correlation between what somebody signed up for on our website and what they ultimately buy with us is almost zero, because they're actually listening, right? They're actually listening and understanding the motivating factors behind someone's goals and trying to actually help them achieve that goal rather than just trying to like fill an order. Do you know what I mean? And that's something I think is
Absolutely.
pretty hard to replace.
Yeah, it's that
Because it's all
pivot. It's
subtext.
it's the stuff in between the notes. Like you're
Yeah.
giving them the notes and they have to kind of fill in those gaps. Beautiful. Well, listen, I don't want to cut this off, but I hear sanding again in the fucking background.
We're gonna
here.
we're
The
gonna get
fuck?
Jordon back on the show like
Bro,
Is that
always.
you
still
have
going on?
no idea what's going
Holy
on
shit.
this morning. Oh,
Yeah.
anyways, I can't
Jordon,
hear
we
anything.
appreciate your time, man. You know, congrats on everything you do. I think that the sales centers are going to be busy again for the developers and you yourself. And we look forward to get you back on the show, man.
Appreciate it, boys. I'll see you guys later.
Enjoy. Thanks, pal.